all signs point to this, as we have some huge Cowboys injury updates ahead of their Week 3 contest versus the Chicago Bears. We'll get you all the latest on that front, plus some keys to the game for the Cowboys to take home a W this coming Sunday. Welcome to Cowboys Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. We've got lots to discuss, talking about injuries, keys to the game, and so much more. Before that, though, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has hit that subscribe button over the past couple weeks. Yesterday, we hit 7,000 subscribers, and I just want to say a big thank you and how appreciative I am to each and every single one of you. It's been an absolute dream to get to cover the Cowboys, especially when I know people are out there enjoying the content. So hopefully you continue to enjoy the show, subscribe, and we're going to keep going all throughout this 2025 season, hopefully into a playoff run for the Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of playoff run, they can have a chance to go to 2-1 on the season with a win this Sunday in Soldier Field against the Chicago Bears on America's Game of the Week. A couple of big storylines before we get into the injury report. Matt Eberflus makes his return to Soldier Field, was the head coach of the Chicago Bears most recently. Now he is the defensive coordinator of your Dallas Cowboys. I didn't think he was a good coach of the Bears. I don't think he's a great defensive coordinator. However, if there is a game and a time for Eberflus to show that, hey, he's got what it takes, this is the game. He coached this team last year. He knows the weaknesses of Caleb Williams. He knows the weaknesses of DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. This is a team that he should have a very good scheme against. And I've been critical of his schemes because the players on the field, they've got what it takes, I believe. But it's the schemes to me and the way that it's being processed out there on the field that I have struggled with. In fact, I'm really excited for this game for the defense, especially on the defensive front. The secondary, though, I'm still a bit concerned about. And that kind of leads me into my injury update for you. We could have waited till today's injury report, but I didn't think that was necessary because we have a very good idea of who's going to play, who's not going to play, based off the injury report from Thursday and comments from head coach Brian Schottenheimer. DaRon Bland was a non-participant in both Wednesday, Thursday, and the talk around town is he's not going to be a participant today on Friday. Odds are we're not going to see him this week in Chicago, which was the expectation. There was a glimmer of hope at times, but the expectation since he had his original injury on that foot a couple weeks ago was that the first chance we were going to be able to see him would be week 4 when the return of Micah Parsons comes to AT&T Stadium with the Green Bay Packers. In regards to the other 3 guys on the injury report, Trevon Diggs, Guyton and KaVonte Turpin, they were all full participants in yesterday's practice. Diggs was on illness with that non-participant on Wednesday. Looks like he felt better on Thursday. Should be a full participant today as well, which is a big part to me because the secondary is where I worry about it. So given you don't have DaRon, I really need Trevon. But again, you're a couple weeks away from having DaRon back, Trevon hopefully fully healthy, and Javonte Revel Jr. I have been critical of Kaiir Elam. I really need to see a good game from him this week, especially given he'll probably be up against Rome Odunze for a majority of the game, who has arguably been better than DJ Moore over the past couple weeks. KaVonte Turpin last week left the game with a neck injury, did not return. Now it seems as though he is going to be fine. Had a neck brace after the game, but all signs point to him playing it this upcoming Sunday. Same can be said for Tyler Guyton. Had a shoulder injury, kind of unspecified. I think it was more just getting beat up over the past 2 weeks, but he was limited on Wednesday, full participant yesterday, full participant today as expected. So 3 out of the 4 guys are expected to be available come Sunday for the game. So with that being said, let's talk about some keys to the game here for the Dallas Cowboys and a way they can come out with a victory on Sunday. The first key is, of course, you got to let Dak cook. The Chicago Bears and their secondary has been probably about as abysmal as most teams could even, not even think of. It was very, very bad. Last week, they gave up 52 points to the Detroit Lions, and really, it's been a tough time for their secondary. And Ben Johnson, he's an offensive-minded head coach, so in a lot of ways, you kind of expected that, but it's definitely something for the Cowboys to take note of. And, of course, Dak Prescott is in that little bit of a roller coaster of a year where sometimes he's down here, sometimes he's up here. This year, he is up here. 549 yards throughout 2 games, most of those yardage coming in the last game against the New York Giants. That ranks 7th in the entire NFL. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. The QBR, just okay, 64.8. Nothing crazy, nothing spectacular, but if last week was any indication of how Dak Prescott is going to be able to play throughout the season, you got to feel pretty comfortable because the secondary of the Giants versus the secondary of the Eagles are complete opposites. I would expect the Eagles secondary to be better, which it was. The Giants secondary, I don't rank them anywhere near the upper half of the league, and he performed well. Similarly, I think the Bears secondary is very, very bad, and I would expect for a very big game. The one thing, though, that I could see as a potential issue, well, it's the let's say, the presence of CeeDee Lamb. And that's where we kind of have to go to our second part, because you've got to use all the wide receivers you have got. Now, a couple of different reports I want to get to, but I first want to start with the Chicago Bears and the yardage they have been able to give up throughout the first 2 weeks. They rank bottom 5 in yards per game. Now, on the opposite side, the Dallas Cowboys rank 3rd in yards allowed per game. So, not exactly the greatest thing for either side of that. I would expect this to be a offensive game for the most part. It really is more about which defense can get more stops than the other. Would probably be the end goal for either team. And who knows, sometimes you have two offensive teams like this come in and it doesn't exactly work. Jared Goff last week threw 334 yards. But the big thing I said, use all wide receivers. Goff threw to pretty much every wide receiver on the Detroit Lions staff had a catch last week. And, of course, finished with over 330 yards. And the big thing that I talk about when talking about using all your wide receivers is CeeDee Lamb is going to be an interesting spot. John Machada had this report yesterday. Cowboys coach Brian Schottenheimer said that Bears defensive coordinator Dallas Allen is going to double team CeeDee, and he should, saying, I double team CeeDee, I might triple team CeeDee. And Lamb said today, I'm still going to go attack, do whatever I got to do for my team. If I got to take two guys, everybody else knows they got one-on-ones, excited for the challenge. And so that's why I think you have to be able to use a couple of different of your wide receivers. And we go back to the injury report. KaVonte Turpin has actually had a bigger role than I think we probably thought in the wide receiver room. I'd argue that he almost has a contingency to be put up there for wide receiver 3. It's a little bit hard to kind of think about that, but if we go look at the stats for the Dallas Cowboys, it's CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and George Pickens as your top 3 receiving guys. Obviously, Ferguson is a tight end. Then KaVonte Turpin right behind them, having 2 games, 6 receptions on 6 targets for 65 yards and a touchdown. Now, I saw a comment, and I want to kind of address it here, talking about KaVonte Turpin, and if they really believe in him as a top 3 wide receiver on this team, is it time to remove him from the return game? And while I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree if he's going to be top 3, you most of the time would like to keep him off of that return group. But when you have a guy as good as KaVonte Turpin at returning the ball, I think it's worth it. Especially since a majority of the time, teams are too scared to kick it to him. And you saw the Philadelphia Eagles, they didn't kick it to him really once. I think once or twice they kicked it to him. So I would expect that they're going to keep him out there. He's a really good returner. I really don't see why that the Cowboys would take him off. But we'll have to see. But obviously that's a big piece of information there for a bunch of different reasons, just to make sure that the Cowboys are able to continue on with that pressure. And same can be said for George Pickens. This is his stats from last year, but same can be said. We need him to come and be a very good presence for the Dallas Cowboys. It was an intriguing comment that Brian Schottenheimer made after the first week, talking about the presence of George Pickens and how he almost needs to get more comfortable with this team. Last week, caught a touchdown, and a very key touchdown at that. He is going to be having a bigger and bigger role, especially if CeeDee continues to have these bigger and bigger games. Pickens was traded for a reason. I think it's time, especially in this game, if they're going to double team CeeDee Lamb, to let George Pickens eat it. And he can be a deep threat. And Dak's got an arm. He's shown it a couple times this season. I would love to have some streaks or some go routes with them this game, because I don't think the safeties are going to be all that for the Chicago Bears. That includes the entire secondary as well. The third key to the game is to get pressure on Caleb Williams. The secondary for the Dallas Cowboys, as I've talked about so much with the Bears, it's also not good. We talked about the yardage per game that they have allowed, and we go back again to that. They ranked bottom 3rd in the league in yards per game. A lot of that is through the passing game, and so you need to get pressure on Caleb Williams in whatever way possible. Talk about last week allowing 450 yards to Russell Wilson. That secondary in Kaiir Elam, Trevon Diggs, they made Russell Wilson look like he was the prime Russell Wilson, the Seahawks Super Bowl days. Like, that's how good Wilson looked, and he's not that good anymore. Let me break the news to you there. But something that will be interesting is Jadeveon Clowney signed last week right after the New York Giants game. It's apparently still up in the air whether he will play versus Chicago. This was the quote from Schottenheimer this morning. "We're going to keep watching today," the coach said. So I think Clowney will be ready to go. I think they're going to let him do it, but we'll have to wait and see on that account. I've gone through 3 of my 4 keys to the game. I want you to get in the comment section. Let me know, what is your biggest key to the game for the Cowboys versus the Bears? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. All right, so my final key to the game for the Dallas Cowboys, it's a big one for me. Keep Javonte moving. Javonte has been probably one of the best running backs in the NFL in this season. He recently got awarded a captain's position. We can go to that tweet here real quick. Patrick Walker saying that Javonte Williams will be this week's rotational captain when the Cowboys take the field versus the Bears. He's off to a blazing start, leads the league in several categories and headlines a top 3 rushing attack for the Dallas Cowboys. He has already 3 touchdowns. The Cowboys as a whole have 4 touchdowns on the ground. Last year they had 6 touchdowns as a team on the ground, so doing pretty well. Javonte has been a key piece to this team, and the hope is that he can keep that going against the Bears team that, again, they are not good at allowing offensive oppression. Their defense has been very abysmal. I have my whereabouts about Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator there, and Ben Johnson as an offensive-minded head coach. So it's been a struggle bus. They're 0-2. You're 1-1. The hope is you can send them to 0-3, and the Cowboys can be 2-1, be above 500, and maybe, just maybe, they can stay above 500 for the rest of the season. With that being said, though, that's all I got for you here today on the show. We appreciate every single one of you watching. If you've made it to the end of the video, you are my friend, a real one of the Cowboys Digest channel, and we appreciate you. We'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest. For now, guys, peace out.